Would you like to introduce yourself to all the people who may not know you?
Hey, I'm Kshal Aideron. I am the founder and CEO of Eve Rookies, as well as the brand new CEO of Warm Life as of January of this year. I've been playing Eve for roughly 5.5 years now. Um, yeah.
What are you trying to achieve this year for CSM?
So, I this is my fourth time going out for CSM. I was CCP's pick back for CSM 18, and pretty much my theme for every single CSM is new player experience, the community tools for communities getting content, and in general, undocking. So this year, it's largely built on getting people undocked. Eve Rookies, we actually run Jeepers. I want to think it's about 100 fleets a month now.
Oh, geez.
So, yeah, getting people out in space is pretty important to us.
so how are you able to manage to get so many people to undock every month? That's crazy. Like, I try to run NPSI fleets, and I'm able to maybe get one a week.
It really helps that we're now a very known entity within the MPSI community as well as even general. A lot of groups will send out their newer players to come and experience incursions, ratting fleets, PvP fleets, and basically everything that we're doing. But what also helps is the 100 plus FCs that I have. Now, this, like say, it wasn't something that popped up overnight. We were in our little infant stage 4.5 years ago, where it was 8 friends, we, had 9 people, and I was running fleets myself, every single week, hoping that someone will come. And, pretty soon it was one brave soul that stepped up and said, "Hey, I want to FC." Then it was a second, then it was second. Right now, I want to think we have something like 12, 13 JFCs for our incursions. And yeah, the rest are all FCs, teachers, and whatnot. So
So
it's
what
become quite a production.
what do you think is causing you to have so much success? Because it's like 5.5 years. That's not a very long time in the grand scheme of
No,
Eve.
there's a need. There's an absolute need. Uh, Either smaller communities just aren't able to run as often as they would like to because time zones and people, and of course, maybe they only have one or two FCs. Uh, but also, I do think, even though Oz will swear up and down that MPSI fleets there's no need in Eve, there's just a need for, public get together fleets.
Yeah, yeah. Like, what drives me to want to like go run MPSI fleets is that there's not a whole lot of them going on in specifically my time zone. Like, I know there's like Bombers Bar and stuff, but that's all EU time zone based. And for someone who's like me and I just want to go shoot stuff, there isn't a lot of group activity out there.
Yep.
So what are you doing in order to get new bros to come and fly with you? Like how are you getting your name out there? Because for me, like, I'm using Twitch to get my MPSI up and running, but how are you doing that for yourself?
I started out on Twitch, same as you. I am probably the most irregular Eve streamer that is on the face of the earth. But I started playing Eve on Twitch at the same time, and that's actually what saved me. Otherwise, I would have quit for a third time. And I want to think it was like 2 weeks after I started playing, my husband sent me a link to an interview with Jintan where he was talking to Grey Owl. She was at MPSI FC for Redemption Road, and they came out of Agony Unleashed, which is really where MPSI came from. And once a month, she would take out a bunch of scared new bros into Curse and Providence and get them blown up, put us in Suicide Catalyst. So there was a fleet coming up about a week and a half after I saw the interviews. So I went all the way out to Berna, which is really in the butt end of nowhere, and got put in one of these catalysts, got taken out, got blown up by smart bombing praxis, had absolutely no idea what just happened, but I reshipped and went back out, and I was hooked. I was determined to be solo, but this whole experience with other people, because this was jeepers. I want to think that there was probably 30 people on this fleet. So from there, I just had like this thirst to be involved. And 6 months into the game, I joined Fun Inc., which is a MPSI, very small MPSI corp, but also it's part of the Ancients, which is an MPSI alliance, and we run fleets for the greater public. And the CEO, he's, well, I really need some people to step up and run fleets. And my husband, who had joined with me, basically told our CEO that I'd be happy to run fleets since I was a raid leader in other MMOs. And I have absolutely no idea what was going on. I was scouting, so probably had a little bit better than most out on grid.
It helps a lot. It
but,
does help a lot.
Oh, yeah. And I took the corp out. So, 8, 9 of us out in Enyos. Probably got 2-3 trill kills, or bill of kills.
It's like, Jesus.
A night. billion, not trillion.
Yeah, okay.
But, so I'm like, okay, I'll post my first actual public MPSI fleet. And this is just the beginning of COVID. So we had about 40 people show up. And as every person like over 10 started to show up, I started panicking because, I've only been playing for about 8 months at this point. And it's like, oh my God, what is going on? But then it was fine. Whelped the fleet to a nag. Fleet told me to, so, it was fine.
Yeah.
And I started doing it every week. And then we found out that there was a real need for new bro roams because the once a month that Redemption Road was doing wasn't enough. So a friend of mine that I met out there, we decided that we were going to start doing our own. And at that time, we were running them every week because, like I say, there was need. But it's gone back down to every other week. But I would stream these, and every fleet, I would probably get 2 or 3 people that had seen it on the stream and wanted to come out and try it. So when it came out time to do EVE Rookies, it was the same thing. I was streaming the Incursion fleets because it started out as an Incursion community, and 1 or 2 people would come out and try it. And then it just was a snowball effect from there. And of course, all the traditional marketing methods, I guess, Reddit and the forum and Twitter and Tweet Fleet and all that good stuff. But yeah, it was just, trying to get as much word as possible about the community out there. And now, I see people on Reddit talking about it and other people recommending it and whatnot. But there's still really no good tools in game to say, here we are. So other MPSI communities have the time that I had back in the days with scaling it up and getting your name out there.
I'm just looking through your forum post and just like making fleets accessible, just going off of what you just said. Yep. How would that work for like MPSI in general? Because like just like what you said, the way that you get MPSI out there into the void is by out of game things. Is something that you would like as a CSM member to be bringing that sort of accessibility into EVE somehow?
One of the things that I worked with CCP a lot on CSM 18 is, the accessibility, how to bring the name in. And there has to be a good way to, make public entities, public communities known within the game, because you have the Corp Finder and you can go through that and you can find it, but public groups, we're kind of left out in the cold. We don't really have an entity. Freelance projects are kind of the start of that. When they start talking about it, I kind of jumped on it and sunk my teeth into it because I think that there's opportunity to bring people to your fleets, but they don't really have anything in there for fleets yet. But it is my hope, and if I could get on to CSM 20, that is definitely probably the biggest thing I would sink my teeth into, getting some fleet activities into that freelance activity thing. Sorry, it's very early in the morning.
No, you're doing great. You're doing great.
But yeah, that's probably one of the biggest things. And, making sure that CCP gets different communities into the community beat and in other traditional places that they're found. They were actually very surprised because they wanted to know how many communities would actually, use the freelance projects tool. And when I started listing all of the public communities, just the looks on their face. They didn't realize that there was more than, the MPSI communities, Eve Rookies, and maybe Abyssal Divers.
Yeah, there's a lot of very small communities out there that could really use just like some sort of way to reach the greater population than just like shit posting on Reddit all the time.
Yeah.
um, yeah, like talking to Dujek about just like the freelance. It feels like there's so many opportunities there for it to be something
There
like
is.
absolutely great. It just from my experiences with it so far, it's just been a way to scam new bros or troll people or just like it's very like surface level stuff right now. I'm really looking forward to it maybe being like
Uh,
adjusted or turned into something that's like actually useful for people to get to know other people.
The one thing that it has been the most useful for, which is one of the big problems for my community that I was trying to solve, is being able to get Livite out to where we need it. For those that don't know, Livite is a tutorial ore that is absolutely necessary to unlock the payment for one of the Vanguard incursion sites. So running 100 fleets a month, in that I want to think that we run probably about 30, 35 Vanguard fleets, maybe even more now. We go through a lot of Livite, and nobody likes dragging it out there. So I've been able to kind of like direct people to go drop it off in different locations, and nobody really has to do anything except for take it out of deliveries. It's been brilliant for that.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's actually a really good way of using it. Yeah. How much do you pay people with these, or how much money have you spent on these freelance jobs for these new bros, or to get stuff that you actually need?
Oh, jeepers. I've probably sunk a good 20, 30 bill into it right now.
That's a big number. um, I had a really good question and it completely left my brain suddenly. Oh, so for people who are doing these freelance jobs, do you get like a good turnaround for people who go from doing like these freelance jobs to joining your MPSI fleets, or are these people who are already doing your MPSI fleets?
So some of the things that I have tried so far with the MPS or the freelance is I've tried raffles. So, that they have to come onto my Discord server to see it or redeem it. I've tried both. I've tried putting descriptions up. And of course, in real life, I'm an affiliate marketer. So I have, tracking on those links to see if people are clicking on it. And maybe two, three out of like the 20 that completed the project actually clicked on it,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe it wasn't even someone that actually completed the project. So I'm having a hard time seeing if I'm getting people to my server to or website to read and see interact. Um, I'm still throwing money at it. I'm still trying to figure it out, but so far the public side of it isn't doing too great. I do think it's giving people things to do. So I think it's doing its job there. I just don't think it's bringing people together like we all had envisioned when, it came up.
Yeah, that's one thing that I like when you first hear like freelance stuff. It's like, oh yeah, this is like a way, or how I heard from CCP. It's like, oh, this is a way for people to interact and get to know other
Hmm.
people. Because like the way that the magic sauce of Eve for me is like interacting with people in meaningful ways like wouldn't in like other MMOs. But it's yeah, it just turns into just I don't know, turns into like just another blank wall that you look at. It's like, oh, this is a way for me to make money. Like it's I haven't seen a way for it to actually convert newbies into new recruits into other
Yeah.
organizations. Unfortunately,
I know that there's more ideas on things to release for it. So, it's not done, hopefully. Hopefully it doesn't become one of those tools that CCP puts some effort into and drops. I think at this point it can go either way, but I do know that there are other things they're intending to do with it. So hopefully that comes out, and hopefully they hit on that, magic project that everybody loves.
Speaking of newbies, I'm just looking at your what undocking means. Lowering barriers for new players so their first undock is exciting, not terrifying. What do you mean by that?
When people undock, they realize, or I'm not going to say they all realize, because we all come across those people who don't understand that blowing up is final, that anything that you have in that ship is gone. But I want to make people understand that ships are ammo, that blowing up isn't like the end of everything. And how we do that, especially with Eve rookies, is we have handouts and SRP for everything. So we want people to just try. That's just simply just try. And of course, undocking goes even further than that, is giving people daily activities to do. I don't think that the daily opportunities are good enough. Of course, this is something that I had an opportunity to interact with CCP a little bit about in CSM 18, um, but it was in its infancy stage at that point. They can do so much with it, but they just don't work on it, or as much as they probably should. But it's also faction warfare, for example. They totally revamped this, and when you talk to them, and they've even said it on some of their dev blogs and whatnot, that they want faction warfare to be the first interaction for PvP. But there's no bridge. You get someone day one that comes into Eve, they don't even know faction warfare exists, and by day 10, day 20, maybe they know it exists from the air career program, but they don't know how to get into it. They don't know what that button is in NPC stations. And if they do click it and they do enlist, they don't know where to go. So there is absolutely zero bridge into this whole like crowning glory first introduction of PvP that CCP has tried to make. So it's just little things like this to get them undocked and out into space instead of, spinning their ship not knowing what the heck to do.
Yeah, my least favorite thing to do is CCP will hire a big content creator on Twitch, and they sit there just clicking buttons, just like what the f do I even do?
Yep.
Like, how do I even interact with the game in some sort of meaningful way? And just sitting there screaming, just like, come on, just click the button.
I'm pretty sure that was my experience the first two times I tried Eve.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. Just trying. Oh, I right click on things. What?
Yep,
Um,
yep.
So what would you do, what would you suggest to CCP in order to get people to be able to interact with PvP in some sort of meaningful way that makes it so that's exciting and not terrifying?
Um, well, first of all, they need to start by adding to their NPE tutorial. Make an actual interaction with PvP. I know we have the career mission where you go and you blow yourself up, and it kind of hints at it by webbing something. I think you have to scram something, but we all know that's not how PvP goes. There's
Mm-hmm.
so much more involved, especially solo PvP.
Oh yeah.
Um, that, like I say again, the air career program, has things to go do, but it doesn't explain well. And I know that there's things in the little box where you can click and go to a video, but it's not very well highlighted. So I think starting with adding something to the MPE to explain the experience a little bit more, and then bridging people over. Um, I've heard people suggest bringing Aura back to explain things a little bit more. Maybe what these modules do, or here is a basic ship fit. Go out to Tama, blow yourself up. Maybe even put a mission in. I don't know,
Yeah.
but there's so many little things that can be done to help bridge that, and also maybe showcase MPSI communities that do work with new players a little bit more, that have those handouts, that have the SRP, because I think loss is still one of the biggest hindrances to PvP. They don't want to lose that shiny ship that they earned or just bought, and they don't realize that there's people out there completely willing to replace it.
Oh yeah, like I think for me alone, the last year I think I spent over 100 billion ISK on just wolves, and a lot of them were just me handing them out to people. It's like, hey, come fly with me, come die with me. I'm like, I don't care. I just need people to have fun with.
Yep.
There are tons of people out here that would just love to give newbies a ship just to go out and get blown up with.
Oh yeah,
Um,
100%.
so how would that, like, I know we have like the fleet finder in Eve, but again, that's sort of like a hard way for people to,
Yeah.
it's not very conducive. And again, just now that I've been playing the game for almost as long as you have, it just screams scam. How would you make it look like so that it's like this is like a real organization that you can trust and that will actually follow through with like the promise of like giving you a good time?
So funny enough, when they redid the Fleet Finder, I mean, it looked even worse than it does now in its original form. I was so excited, both myself and the CEO of Fun Inc. We were so excited and so beside ourselves because we thought it was going to be something else. We thought that we were going to actually be able to schedule fleets ahead of time and put, a little bit more about our community in there and maybe, but it just turned out to be a reskin of the old Fleet Finder, and it just if you've ever been on a filament fleet and you have your fleet in that Fleet Finder, and you get a random person that just comes and joins you, and you can't figure out who the heck is keeping you from filamenting, it is very frustrating.
Oh yeah, tell me about it.
so, so, some communities will have people join and then, terminate it like 5 minutes before that they filament out or they leave and whatnot. But it's not user friendly. I actually had gone on the forum and said it was a steaming pile of crap, and CCP Ice Cream and I kind of got into it when it was released a couple of years ago. So basically, what MPSI.rocks is what the Fleet Finder should have had. We shouldn't have to have this MPSI calendar, this fleet calendar out of the game as a third party. We should be able to connect the Fleet Finder to the calendar, because there is a calendar in game. So, why not do something that connects all the tools that we have in game and let people know that there's fleets coming? I don't know. It is something that I did talk to CCP about extensively during my term, because the Fleet Finder is kind of like one of those soapbox issues for me.
What sort of resistance is it did they give you regarding this change, or is this just something that they're like, oh yeah, we're looking at it?
Ask me in 2 years.
Oh, okay, all right. I will put that onto a sticky notes and never look at it
Yep.
again. Oh, that's
No,
frustrating.
that is the most frustrating part of being CSM is the stupid NDA. But I suspect that they don't want to put the time. Now, this is just my suspicion. This isn't, any hidden knowledge that I have. But I suspect they just don't want to put the time and effort into the Fleet Finder because they don't believe anybody is going to use it. Obviously, they must have some sort of stats on how often it's used. But I think if they were to put these tools into it, it would be used much more because we see how much the MPSI calendar is used. So, it would just be people using that in game.
Yeah. I think like from a newbie perspective, like making it easier for people to join these MPSI groups, but outside of like the community blog or whatever, like there's like obviously like the little links you can click on when you first boot up your launcher or whatever. Like I think doing something outside of just like, hey, here's all this shit that you probably won't even ever look at until you've been playing the game
Yep.
for maybe a month. Um, we kind of have to have stuff in the game where we can point new bros to for resources. Um,
Why not have Aura pop up, 30 days into the game or, 60 days into the game saying, hey, here's this tool that you can use. Did you know? Like I say, they have this tooling to use. They just don't do anything with it.
like one thing I can see might be a problem with that is like, oh, we're starting to favor certain NPSI groups over others, but like is this going to turn into like an application process where we're going to have to start like vetting these NPSI groups?
It It does seem that favoritism is a big step. It's a big blocking point for them. They seem to be very conservative on their thoughts with involving the community more like that.
Hmm. Um, yeah. Moving on from research to talking too much. Reducing toxicity. Speaking of which, what is that like a really big concern for you in regards to Eve?
Yeah. So in my community, in Eve Rookies, we do not accept any toxicity or drama of any sort. Now, you have to remember we are a just ticked over to 4,500 person server. So, and we have people from every corner of Eve and every corner of the world. So there is absolutely no way we can draw a line and say, this type of thing is okay. Because there's going to be another culture, there's going to be another corner that it's not. So we are, like, say, zero tolerance. Not even Eve propaganda. So if there is, like, some sort of drama going on in wormhole space, that doesn't even leak into our server. However, I know that salt and propaganda are a huge part of Eve, and that's fine in game context. Completely fine. What's not fine is some of the things that I see in local chat. There are groups out there who take it a little bit too far. There are groups out there who run blogs with screenshots, and it shows them, telling people to do things like die, or why don't you just go off and off yourself? You're such a bad player, and all these things. This type of toxicity has absolutely no place in the game. And the other thing about our community is when I say we have people from every walks of life, we do. And I have people who are scared to go to any other community because of, their gender or their preferences or their abilities or disabilities. And Eve should be inclusive. So bringing awareness that, this real life toxicity does exist, and gatekeeping does exist is kind of one of the missions of the community.
How would you reduce that level toxicity across all of New Eden then, besides just like inside your own community?
It's completely 100% player awareness. CCP does their best if it's reported to them in game. But they won't touch out of game stuff. That was evident by the whole absolute order problem that has been going on for a couple years now, where the upper management are in their Discord trading, racist memes and ableist memes and sexist memes and, every type of ism that you can possibly throw at it. Um, it's obviously a toxic leadership, but it's not in the game, so CCP won't touch it. So it is the community that has to say, I'm not okay with this. And what was really cool is the summer operation that went on. Eve came together to evict Absolute Order out of Providence, and there was a server that was created for this community, and you'd have people coming into the community spouting, you know, typical gamer words, and you'd have other people saying, "Hey, can we not do that here?" So that is the type of awareness, and that is the type of basically gamers stopping the gamer talk, without going into the specifics of that particular toxicity.
Yeah, I actually was on the CCP stream and I was bashing structures on the CCP stream, and I got made friends with JB Hitmaker or whatever. Yeah, really cool group of dudes that came together to go do something about that. Um, would so like being on the CSM, would you be just trying to drive home, just like trying to get CCP just to put that out there into the world that like, hey, we as a company aren't okay with this sort of stuff
Yeah,
happening in our game? Yep.
And it's evidence that, talking to CCP, because I'm not the only player that is concerned with this and talk to CCP about it, but for the last two FanFests, they've actually put panels out about, you know, different issues of toxicity. I think it was 2023, no, 2024. They had one about women in Eve, and we talked about, issues that we faced. And then this year it was just more inclusivity, and it had Jinton and Rain and a bunch of other people from different communities talking about, the toxicity and the things that we would like to see or not see. So CCP is definitely listening. They're just not moving on it as fast as some of us would really like.
Yeah, I remember what was last year there was a wormhole group that they put swastikas in like all their ship names or whatever,
Yeah.
and then a whole bunch of wormhole groups came together and just kicked them out of their wormhole and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, that would be really nice to see from like an upper like not player base but from like a company based standpoints. I understand like free speech and whatever, and gamers will be gamers, but to make sure that that level of toxicity isn't going to be like this is going to be like the Eve's identities. You can do whatever you want in the game, get away with it. There has to be some sort of consequences besides just players reporting that sort of garbage.
And and also, gatekeeping is another form of toxicity. And this year I got into the faction warfare world, and which is why it's kind of like on the top of my mind with easing people into that for PvP and whatnot. But we made a Grista's corporation so we could go out and plex and collect LP, get people, out into space and whatnot. And I have never seen such a gatekeepy, toxic community, I guess. I don't know if it's the Eve paranoia that, 10 worms land on a plex, that, we must be AWOXers.
Yeah.
We couldn't possibly be brand new players to faction warfare, especially since some of the characters are older. But if this is people's knee-jerk reaction, imagine having, that single, say, 20-day-old character come out to faction warfare, enlist, see that chat, and people literally tell them they're not welcome.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, not gonna want to play with these guys for sure.
Yeah, why would someone want to exist in that space? And militia chat has very good intel, so you kind of it's that double-edged sword. Um, so it's just kind of like, just people just need to be aware of what they say, what they type, and how other people are going to take it.
Yeah, no, that's like my biggest thing with just trying it, like just try to make this into a very accessible place, whether it's just like making game mechanics like very easy for people to be able to access, but also just like people in general like in the game to be very accessible and very easy to interact with.
Yeah.
Like we all want to go and shoot each other in the game, but we don't
Yeah.
want to be buddies afterwards, right?
Well, I mean, we have to have new players coming into the game. We need people to stay in the game in order to have a game because it's a sandbox. I've had people in the last 5.5 years tell me I'm too woke, whatever that is. I guess if that means that I personally don't say words that offend people, and I try to make my community and Eve accessible, sure, I'm woke.
Yeah.
I'm a hard ass on that. Go me.
No, like even my wormhole group, yeah, like we have all walks of life in our tiny little group of 30ish dudes and other
Yeah.
people. Like it's just like that's just the world, and people just have to live with it and deal with it, and they have to, yeah, just like, and we gotta grow with the times.
Yeah.
I hope Eve and CCP also do the same thing. Um,
Like I say, CCP is slowly.
Speaking of newbies, what has, in your opinion, been the thing that's keeping newbies around nowadays?
Sorry, say that again.
What is the thing that's keeping new players
Oh,
like wanting to keep on playing the game longer than like a week?
Honestly, it's, meeting other players, 100%. Uh, we see a lot of people come and go in Eve Rookies, but it's always the people that are brave enough to come out to a fleet that tend to stick around. And I think that that is one of the um, same things that a lot of other people encounter. It's that first time getting blown up by another player, and that other player just reaching out and saying, hey, we see you're new. Here's a little bit of ISK. Here's what you did wrong. Next time, or extending that olive branch out to join the corporation or join the next fleet. Um, that tends to keep people around. I remember being out in a wormhole and getting my first corp invitation, and that kind of made me feel like, oh wow, there's people out here that kind of care that I stay. So
Yeah.
I think that's the same sentiment that a lot of players feel when they have that magic moment.
Yeah, like that was me with Wingspan. So I moved into a C5, just me and one other guy, and Wingspan, they came in, they blew up my DST that was carrying my C5 ratting Marauder into my wormhole, and instead of being trolls like hell camping me for a week because I'm an easy target, they reached out and now my main character's been inside that corp for the last 4 years and made a lot of like lifelong friends there. um
Yeah, no, like say, just it's the friendship machine. I know it's corny and kind of cliche at this point, but yeah, it's the friendship machine that keeps people around.
Yeah. And I think like looking at your forum posts, just like getting tools to people who want to create content, lowering barriers and making fleet successful is ways that we're going to be able to retain people because Eve is a PvP game and we need people flying those fleets.
One of the things that I talk to a lot with null players, especially, you get new players within their first 30 days that get recruited to go out to the big blocks. And we all know all the big blocks have their newbie corpse. You have, what is it, Goon Academy or whatever, and Horde has theirs. But all the doctrines are more advanced doctrines that take a long time to fly in. And they're like, yeah, we don't have, much uptake of people coming out with us or blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what are you doing to kind of get people out into fun fleets? Are you lowering the barrier, putting them in frigates? Are you putting them in, things that they can fly in their first 30, 60, 90 days?
Mhm.
Or are you, immediately making them skill into a more advanced doctrine in order to feel like they can participate? Uh, it's just kind of these things where players, it doesn't always have to be CCP. Players in our thinking can also lower those barriers.
Yeah, I know one particular group in the game that forces everyone to fly Feroxes.
Yep.
That's a very long train, even with like all the little baby like T1 modules. Yeah, it's
Yep.
garbage.
Funny enough, last night I actually interviewed Angry Mustache, and we were talking about what was it, undocking or fleets, one or the other, and he brought up Feroxes as his like baseline newbie ship. And I'm just kind of sitting here thinking, like, okay, your idea of newbie and my idea of newbie are two different things. I'm putting newbies into ventures because they put all their skills into exploration and can't fly, a catalyst or whatever brand of destroyer I'm taking out for the week.
Hmm.
So it's like people's definite people people in different areas of space definitely think about newbies as different levels.
Yeah, like when I think of a newbie, I'm thinking like Kestrels, not
Yeah,
battleships.
yeah, pretty much.
um, just getting tools to communities who create content. Is that just again just like getting people who are like doing the ambient stuff, or is that also thinking about like Amazon Prime doing like dread brawls and that in Amazon like on a weekly basis at this point?
It's whatever tools we can get people out. When I was on 18, I spent a very long evening talking to CCP Nomad about Eve Rookies and how I've got my success and how I'm able to fund everything that I do. And I think that's one of the biggest barriers to communities and putting out content is they don't have a random, 100 bill lying around to just buy ships that they're going to blow up. They have to figure out ways to fund it, whether through taxes or donations or, fleets where they take all the ISK that the players make and put it in the corp wallet in order to fund these things. So I think that finding a way to get communities, the resources, so whether that be ships, Plex, ISK, um, ways to get their fleet out there, and I don't know, and there's probably other tools that I haven't thought about, Fleet Finder, connecting the calendar into things somehow. It's just these type of resources so that, groups, communities can do more. It also honestly goes into being able to do those dread rolls. Because right now that's not very accessible for a lot of groups. You got a lot of small groups out in Null who would absolutely love to do a dread roll, but those 3 dreads are probably going to cost them, their life savings.
Yeah. Yeah, like I like would this be like another like partnership program through like I know like there's like the Eve partner like content creator program. Would this be like another version of that where they're getting some sort of like kickback from CCPs in order to be able to constantly drive contents?
It could be, or it could be, expanding the current partnership program, maybe making some new requirements for, FCs or whatnot and bringing them into the partnership program. That's something that I have talked to CCP about even before I became CSM. Because, okay, great that you get some ISK and great that you get some skins, but and great that you get your name in the community beat, every now and then. But there isn't much more in resources of actually converting what you're doing out of game into the game outside of your communities. So I think they definitely should expand on that.
Good. Bridging solo and group play so players can transition. I can't talk. It's also getting late for me. Can transition naturally from me to we. Yeah, like trying to do solo content in Eve is pretty hard, especially like solo PvP, as you said earlier. How would you bridge? What is your vision of bridging solo to group play?
It's the same thing. Convincing the solo players to come out and try group content. Now, I am aware that there are solo players that will never, ever, ever, ever think about coming out to a fleet with other people. Other people are icky and scary. Um, I was convinced to be a solo player. Like say that lasted all of about 1 month when I fell right into the MPSI community. I think that solo players are just fleet potential, fleet members. They just haven't landed in the right group. They haven't met the right player. So again, it's getting them out and trying to just convince them to come to a fleet, try it out.
Yeah. For me to finally like I was very much in the mindset like I'm just going to like I'm going to make my trillion isk or whatever. Just I'm going to do this completely solo. I'm going to wrap this game around my finger. I'm going to be the next like mogul or whatever. And clearly that's not Eve. That's like
Yep.
the exact opposite of Eve. Again, Eve is about like those social connections. And like it sounds to me like Kshal's trying to make it really really easy for people to get into Eve in order to be able to make friends, get into fleets, and make it so that people are out doing fun together because that's the magic sauce of Eve is friendship, right?
Absolutely.
Quality of life changes. What are some quality of life changes you would like to see changed?
Okay, so my number one quality of life thing that I would like to get added into the game is logs for corp hangers. Now, this is something that my community wants, both Worm Life and uh, Eve Rookies, but as the person who has to keep replacing the T1 guns off of our Incursion Vindicator, I would love to know who keeps taking it out and forgetting to put those guns back into the hold. And if I simply had a log saying that so and so did it, I wouldn't have to keep pinging the whole entire server asking who has the bloody guns because I'm not going to buy another set. It's crazy to me. There's so many logs for so many things. You know, we have our transaction logs for the market. We have logs for containers, but we don't have logs for corp hangers. That would be useful for so many people, and I imagine that would save the sanity of so many directors and CEOs.
Yeah, like I did I talked to Eve Uni about doing a big like a battleship brawl in Abzon, and it took me so long just to fit every single little ship. It would have helped so much just to have like okay, which ship did I have like this module on or whatever. Yeah, that would save my ass like hours,
Yeah.
like a couple hours for sure.
And of course, you know, there is the same things that I asked for, you know, in CSM 18. I would love to see ACL corp hangers. It's probably not going to happen ever, but you know, if they decided to work on it's such a small thing that would make the life of so many coalitions and so many alliances so much better and public communities. Um, then there's, you know, accessibility type things that I would love to see put in the game. As I said, we have a lot of people with different disability, and color blindness is probably one of the biggest ones. And I know Drake Aideron has been working on this because he's colorblind, but just putting some more tooling in that allows our colorblind players to navigate the game a little bit better
Mhm.
would be fantastic. You know, the option to make things a little bit bigger would be fantastic and a little bit clearer. Because there's certain modules that people have to hoover over to remember which is which. I know that ECM is one that I have a player that struggles with big time because they have to remember, you know, which color is which on their button lineup because they can't just see the blue.
Yep. Yeah, I have a couple guys in my C5 corp that are colorblind, so yeah, that would be a really good change just for I think a large like pretty like a
Yep.
larger group of the player base than we probably even are aware of.
Yeah.
And
I
I think
also have people that have use accessible tools. So one of my leadership, he is basically a quadriplegic. So he has some movement in his neck and he has some movement in a finger. So he has made his own custom equipment, but he can't Q click. And in manual piloting, that is such a huge thing in Eve.
oh yeah.
So, you know, why do we have to hold down things and move a mouse at the same time? You know, can't we find some more accessible ways to make some of these, you know, commands?
Yeah. Like I have a corp mate who's hearing impaired. Like I'm sure there's a whole bunch of things in there that would be probably good for him. Um like the shield sound or like your hull sound or whatever, like those warnings would probably nice to have some sort of like
Oh yeah,
flashing weight in order to be able to see that as well.
100%.
Um, which area of the game do you think needs to be worked on first and foremost in order to retain new players? Is like probably a high sec, obviously. I think that's kind of a dumb question to ask, but in your opinion, like maybe it's low sec. Like I had a good conversation with Young Puke about like low sec needing some revitalization. Is it high sec? Is that the thing that we need to change in order to keep players around?
I I think it's several areas at the same time. I think it is high sec, low sec, and low class wormholes that probably need some love. When you think of the natural progression of new players, one of the things that, especially the Eve server new player help, pushes people towards for their activity is exploration. And of course, where are they going to explore? and try to get into wormholes around the career systems and Jita, and there's lots of low class wormholes around there. So we always see them come wandering into Worm Life free ports, and once you get in there, it's the exact same thing every time. And that's cool for the first 30 days when you're learning and trying to figure things out. You don't want um, things to be different.
Yeah.
But after that, you kind of get bored with doing the same thing. So you bring in, your ratting ship, you have the exact same sites every time. So I think that those definitely need some love. I know that I've heard from the community that they would love to see escalations be put into some of the sites. HiSec, especially, we just lost a group activity. Fobs got moved from HiSec to LowSec. So there's not a whole lot now. Plus, we have the same tired missions that we've had since they were introduced, um, with the same not great rewards. And yeah, those definitely need some love. We can see CCP trying with their new tooling and their what is it, the Dungeon Maker, with home fronts.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that they have the capability of doing something new. At this point, I'm not sure if it's worth, trying to refactor the current missions. I think maybe just making new ones and editing out the old ones probably would be a better time saver, you know, uh, type thing for them. But doing something along that, giving something fresh and new, um, either fixing Cosmo missions or just getting them out of the game. Uh, so it's those type of things, and then of course LoSec. I know Young Puke has a broader scale idea on this. I just want to like say bridge that gap, get people into LoSec,
Yeah.
in a meaningful way.
Yeah. No, like for how I did it when I started playing the game, I basically got into wormholes right away just because I read a tutorial online that said that's the best way of making ISK as a solo new player.
Yep.
And I've been in there ever since, basically. So finding a way to keep people engaged in a meaningful way past that solo gameplay
Yep.
style I think is something that we need to aspire to, especially as content creators or as a game community as a whole. So like getting people pushed towards like MPSI groups, game wanting to go out and do things in a meaningful way is probably the next big step that I think CCP needs to do in order to keep the game going.
And that is one of the missions of the Warm Life free ports is to catch those new players coming in and explaining Wormhole Life to them, and how to exist in the ecosystem and not just feed ships. So yeah, anything more that CCP could give to keep people in there and happy and logging in is a cherry on top.
Cool. If you were to be voted CSM this year, what is one thing that you're going to really try to drive home to CCP? Like, what's the number one thing that you're going to have on top of your head that you're going to push for this year?
It's getting those freelance projects sorted out. There's so many things that are hinging on these working correctly, and not just for open communities, and it's also for corporations and for alliances, just getting the content out there and into the game. So there's so many more things that I would love to see added, different possibilities. So it's keeping that fresh in CCP's mind that we have to keep evolving this thing instead of forgetting about it, moving on to the next shiny.
I just like the first day we had freelance jobs, there was like we are not me specifically, but there was like a group put up a freelance job for ice mining in, I think it was Shira, And
Yeah.
day one, 3 orcas were caught in Amazon going through the Hikota gates, and just like, come
Yep.
on, these need to change. Like,
Yeah.
how did you screw this up so badly, day one?
And don't think that conversations about that exact type of thing didn't go on, when we talked about freelance projects and what players might use these for. Um, but it's also just because players are going to use it to lure players through, or players aren't going to use their head because they have never encountered Amazon before. There are so many new players that have not encountered these special little sections of high sec.
Mhm.
Um, it's not a good reason not to do it. And like I say, there's still so much potential. I do believe
Oh,
in these projects, and um, we just need to get them to a place where they're infinitely more useful.
yeah, yeah. I think hopefully within the next year we start seeing them being used in a way that we're able to convert newer players into people who
Yeah.
join corps and join communities and stuff, and not just doing the same missions in high sec over and over and over again.
Yep.
Cool. Um, is there anything else you want to add before we end this evening, or is there a final words you want to tell people why they should vote for you?
So, if I haven't convinced you to vote for me in this interview or any of the other interviews, or my day-to-day Eve life of trying to get people into fleets and running fleets and providing content, just think about who you are voting for. If you are in a block, great, fantastic, but are you putting subject matter experts that make Eve a better place into the CSM? CSM, we have a lot more power than people give us credit for, when we sit on there. It is an advisory group, and especially now, CCP is listening. I can see things coming from CSM 18 coming into fruition this year. And, CSM 17 is seeing things that have come into fruition, stuff like that. So we may not get what we want now. CCP may not take our suggestions now, but they eventually will. So just please, please, please think about who you're putting on that council. Make sure that every part of the game is represented, and new players in high sec are usually very underrepresented. This year we did have Jujek, and I think he did a absolute phenomenal job, but he's also not that person that is sitting there trying to get people into fleets on day one. Um, you know, just like say, think about it. I have fears that we're going to have a very null heavy CSM this year.
And we don't want that. No, yeah, I've been telling everybody who's been watching these, like, we need care, like, new player retention. That's way more important than anything that the null blocks need. Like, we have to, cater to the whales. We have to cater to, like, the people who've already drank the tea, but we need more people to come in, and we need them to stick around in order to keep, the lights turned on.
I have people on my community team that, have gone out to live in Null, and they still do, all the activities through Eve Rookies. And, those type of people are the ones that we're looking for to represent, the high sec and the new player experience. So just because of where they live doesn't make them, a Null representative per se.
Mm-hmm.
But look at the experience that the people that you're voting for are bringing. That is more important.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thanks for coming on tonight, Kshal, or I guess morning for you.
Yeah. I'm going back to bed after this.
Please, yeah, me too. It's been a crazy weekend for me. But good luck with the rest of your interviews, and I hope to hear from you soon.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Anytime. All right, take care. Bye bye. Absolutely lovely person. This was good. This was awesome. Yeah. I'm a huge sucker for like new bros. I know I make people in my wormhole corp very mad because I always like, oh, we should get like this guy to join our C5 group, like this new bro. We should get this new bro to join our C5 group. It's because I want to keep the new bros happy. I want them to stick around and stuff. But yeah, I think it's really important that we have people like Kshal and Dujek just like on the CSM, because we do need to keep that the new blood coming in, because new blood turns into new people to shoots, turns into new people to buy stuff and manufacture things, and just